Shalom friends, welcome to this shiur in the Mesilat Yesharim, the path of the just, a wonderful Musar work written by the Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lutzato of the 18th century. We're currently on chapter number 3. We're speaking about the trait of Zehirut, watchfulness. And we left off at a point where we spoke about this idea that a person should be aware that there are two types of darknesses that exist, or two types of areas that we need to worry about within darkness. And the two areas concern ourselves where we speak about darkness as hiding something and we can't see it, and another type of darkness whereby we can make an error and we can bump into something, or we can think that something is what it really isn't. Now, the idea of watchfulness is to be on the alert all the time of things that can distract us from reaching our goal in life, things that are bad for us, things that we should avoid. Now, the catch is that in the process of avoiding it, we have to find out whether or not it is really something that needs to be avoided. If so, we need to avoid it at all costs. And if not, we need to know exactly how far to go with that particular thing. Now, we said over here in the last lesson that kain chomriot v'gashmiot ha'olam hazeh. So too it applies with the materiality, the physicality of this world. Hinehu choshek halayla le'ein haseichel. It is like a darkness of the night to the intellect. V'goyrem lo shtei ta'ayot. And the way of this world, in other words, the physicality, the materiality, causes a person to make an error in two matters. Ha'achat, the first matter that the materiality and this physicality can confuse us with is that eino maniach lo does not allow a person sheyire hamikshalot shebedarchei ha'olam. One of the problems of materialism is that it does not allow us to see the stumbling blocks that are in the way in the world. Let's give an example. When we speak about materiality, and we say the materiality can hide things, we're not going to be aware of certain things. Well, here's an example. A person can stand in front of a mountain range, huge mountain range in front of him, spans tens of kilometers as he looks from the one side to the other side, massive. And you think to yourself, isn't the mountain range pretty big? So yes, it's huge. So then you take a coin. You put the coin by your eye, just a little bit in front of your eye, and all you see suddenly is a coin. What happened to this range of mountains that was tens of kilometers long? Well, once you put the coin in front of the eye, it confuses one, and one thinks that the coin is what's in front of one, and one begins to think that perhaps the coin is bigger than the mountain range. Well, it sounds like a ridiculous example, but this really happens. A person puts a coin in front of himself, and he becomes totally disillusioned from what the reality of life is really all about there. We have to be careful to know that material things often distract us from our path in life to such a degree that we don't even realize we've been distracted. And we think that what's in front of us is the real thing, when in reality, there is something so much greater that lies behind that. We find the following happen. Foolish people walk in surety. Who are the people most likely to feel that their path in life is the correct path? Foolish people who don't spend enough time contemplating the real goal of life. Why? Because they already know better. And they fall and they collapse without arriving of a pachad tequila, without reaching a stage of fear first. How many young people do we know today, people on social media following each other in all sorts of crazy dares? They've got to do all sorts of things, and they don't realize what the consequences are. And they say to themselves, I'm confident, I can do this thing. The latest craze. What's the latest craze? I don't know. I'm just making it up. The latest craze is to walk on a high bridge and to walk right along the very edge of the high bridge, which is with a river below, a very deep river filled with rocks and all sorts of things. And the whole catch is that you've got to try and get across from the one side to the other. You can do it. And then they post a video and they show each other, look, we can do this particular thing. And this person succeeds, and this person succeeds, until one person doesn't succeed. And one asks oneself, but what led this person to do it? He's a fool. He was so arrogant. He had so much that he felt that he was in charge of everything, that he could handle it, that he went off and he did this particular thing, thinking he was in charge. But it's the fool who falls. And when the danger happens, when the damage is done, we can only look back and say, how did that happen? Why did the person not look forwards? Why did he not think about the consequences? One must be in a state of fear to be aware that the path that one takes could be the wrong path. One needs to think and contemplate what is the correct path in life. This is what the verse says in the book of Mishlei in Proverbs, in Perek Dalet, chapter 4. Derech reshaim ka'afela. The way of the wicked is like darkness. Lo yadu b'mei kashlu. They don't know in what they are stumbling. The way of the wicked is such that they don't even realize that they're stumbling. Until the very last moment, when everything is completely over and it's hopeless, they don't yet realize what has just happened. They don't yet realize what is going on. And it says, Arum ra'a ra'a, Arum ra'a ra'a, the clever person sees evil, the nistar, and he hides himself away from it. He goes out somewhere, he sees a situation, doesn't look safe. He says, not for me. I'm just not prepared to go there. But the fools pass through and they get punished. The fool is the one who has such arrogance, such confidence in himself that he is right. And there is no other way, that he will put himself in all sorts of danger for no reason whatsoever to prove indeed that he is right. But it's the wise man who sees the danger ahead and he says, I'm not prepared to go there. And it says in another pasuk over there in Perek Yudalet, the fool gets angry and he is sure that their heart is healthy to them like a hall. It's so great. They have such good health with their heart. They say, I can do this. You know, whatever the case is in life, I can do it. I can eat those creepy crawlies. I can behave in this way. I can be under the water for 4 minutes at a time, 5 minutes at a time. I could do all sorts of things. I am afraid of nothing. Nothing makes me afraid. Well, this is the way of the fool, says Shlomo HaMelech. V'noiflim, and they fall, they stumble. Perhaps not everybody. Of course, if everybody would stumble, people would catch on quickly that there's something going on here. Be careful of it. Unfortunately, not everybody stumbles. And that puts a message across to other people that maybe there's something in it. Maybe it can be done. But Shlomo HaMelech says to us that the fool is neiflim, falls, terem yadu me'amikshel klal, before he even knows that the stumbling block is there at all. V'hata'ut hashni'ah, the second mistake that's made. Vehi kashem min harishona, and it is even harder, even worse than the first mistake. This is what happens, shemat'er iyasam, that their vision becomes mistaken. Ad shero'im hara, that they see the bad, ki'ilu hu mamash tov, as if it's good. The way of these fools in the darkness of the physical world is not just that they see danger and they say, I'm safe from the danger, but they know it's danger, but they say, I'm safe from it. There is a worse problem. It is the problem of the person who sees the bad, and not only does he say, it's bad, but I'll still go ahead and do it, but he thinks it's good. He sees something that is bad and he puts it into his mind that that particular thing is good. V'hatov ki'ilu hu ra, and he sees the good as if it is bad. This is like a sick person in hospital. The person's lying down in the hospital. He had a major operation. He comes out of the anesthetic. His body needs to build up some strength again. The nurse comes by, says, it's time to eat. Here is your meal. He says, I don't feel hungry. I'm not going to eat anything at all. You must eat, they tell the sick patient. He says, all right, I'll try something. He puts it, terrible taste, he says. Don't worry, the nurse explains, the doctor explains. You don't understand it. You're still sick. You'll see that at this point in time, because you're sick, the lovely food in front of you tastes bad. The lovely food in front of you is something that you believe you don't need because you think you're healthy. But that is only a sign because you're sick. When you're healthy, then you will realize the value of this food. So the person, again, who runs his life in a way of health and the opposite is the person also who says, I will spend my entire life eating only unhealthy foods. And he thinks to himself, because he eats all these foods and he thinks that it fills him up, he says, this must be good food. But the healthy person knows better. And when he looks at the healthy food, he says, but it tastes so bad. All those fruits, all those vegetables, the spinach, I don't want it. This is a sign of the sickness. The healthy person begins to enjoy the spinach. He says, this is healthy for me. It's going to give me strength. So the fool is the person who encounters the world like the sick person. And when he sees good in front of him, he imagines it's evil. When he sees evil in front of him, he imagines it's good. Let's talk about that for just a brief moment. Think about a story, for example. There was a lady in the Holocaust, a young girl. Her name was Anne Frank. And she was hidden by a family until eventually she was found by these Germans, these Nazis, and she was killed. And the irony of the story is that the people who hid her were found liable for transgressing the law, and the people who killed her were found praiseworthy at the time, of course, for having engaged in the law of getting rid of the Jewish people at that point in time. Because when evil people look at the world, they see that good is evil and they see evil as good. Well, who was really correct? Who was doing the right thing? Were the people who were keeping Anne Frank safe, were they doing the right thing or were they doing the wrong thing? A wise man knows they were doing the right thing, and the wise man knows that those other Germans, those Nazis, were doing the wrong thing. But in the world that they lived at that point in time, according to the way society worked in that country, society said that those who hid to save the lives of the Jews were doing wrong. They were doing evil. And those German Nazis, were doing the good. Because when a person gets an evil in his mind, and he behaves in this evil manner, then when he looks at evil, it is good. And when he sees good, he cannot even imagine that this thing is good, because he imagines it to be evil. And because of this, the evil person, the fool in life, strengthens himself and he continues in his bad behavior. A person, for example, who becomes addicted, whether to alcohol, whether he becomes addicted to drugs, whether he becomes addicted to any possible addiction that one can imagine, which of course is bad for one. As he engages in the addiction, he says, I'm fine. I'm okay. This is good stuff. Can't you see? I'm so much happier when I take these particular drugs. Look at me. I'm a happy person. Or look at you. You don't take these drugs and you look so sad about everything. But in reality, the person who's become addicted to the drug doesn't realize the drug is damaging to him. And though it looks on the surface like it is bringing him joy, he has found himself in a place of evil. The other person, on the other hand, needs to get himself together. He needs to be a happier person. Nobody says he must walk around in a state of depression. But nevertheless, he is still on the right track. He is still avoiding the pitfalls in life. He is going through hardships, difficulties. That's understandable. But the other person believes that the action that he is engaged in is a good action. And he cannot even imagine that when somebody says to him that his engagement in the alcohol, the engagement in the drugs, this is all bad for him, he says, to me it is good. It must be good. That is the way of the fool. That is the darkness of this physical world. When we look around us, the material confuses us to such a degree that when we see something that is evil, we can think of it as good. When we see something that is good, we can think of it as evil. That is the trick of the material world, of the physicality. It's not sufficient for these people that they cannot see the truth. To look at the bad that is in front of them. But rather, But they even go ahead to find all sorts of proofs, all great proofs, all sorts of tests, that prove their logic and why they're correct. They say, look at me. That's exactly the point. I had this particular drug. It's very good for me. It makes me happy and puts me in a good mood, and I'm able to work and I'm able to achieve all sorts of things in my life. And they make up all sorts of excuses. The svarotayim araot, to all of their bad logic, and to their deceptive knowledge, to their false ideas. This is the greatest bad possible, which envelops them and brings them to the pit of destruction. This is what the verse says in Yeshaya, Perik Vav, the book of Isaiah in chapter 6. Hashmein leiv ha'am hazeh, the heart of this nation has become fat. V'oznav hikabed, and its ears have become heavy. V'einav hasha pen, and its eyes have inclined, lest such and such, whatever happens over there, turn back. How they say, lest they see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their hearts and turn back and be healed. What has happened to people is that they've become so confused with all of the obstacles in life that it closes off their ability to focus on life and to reach the goal and to become better and to improve. How much do we know in our own lives how important it is to direct our children, that when they are young and growing up, we teach them only the best values. We keep them away from any bad influences that they could be, and they could succumb to other people who will take them off the path. And we tell these children, be careful all the time. Don't go and see that movie. It's a bad movie. Don't look at it. Why? Because when one is growing up and one is young, one thinks in a certain way. And the arrogance that comes across in a young person is far greater than come across in an elderly person who has gone through life and seen all the challenges and tests of life. But the young person thinks he's got it all. He's in charge of his body. He's strong. He's attractive. He can do anything. He knows what he's doing, and he's in control of everything. And the parent says, you're not in control of everything. If the parent doesn't say that, they need to say it. They need to keep the child away because they can see themselves from the path in life, that if they carry on in that direction as children, what will become of them when they become adults? This is the danger of the confusion of the material world. When we don't just see bad for bad, and in any case we go towards it, but when we see the bad and we even think it's good, when we see the good, we say it's bad. As the expression goes, those who are merciful to the cruel will one day be cruel to the merciful, which means to say there are many people in the world who feel sorry for those people. They say it's better to feel sorry for people when you see them in a terrible situation, even if they're bad. Such a person who acknowledges the bad and then comes off with mercy upon that bad will one day turn to the person who's good and be cruel to him. This is what the Mesilat Yesharim is teaching us. The Ramchal is teaching us over here. Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lutzato is telling us, be careful. The mask of the physical world is such that it can confuse us, take us off the path, and make us think what's right is wrong and what's wrong is right. The kolze and all of this is it's because they are underneath the darkness, and they are completely conquered. They are underneath the dominion of the reign of the evil inclination. But those people who have already brought themselves out of this prison, that is like the parent who has grown up and matured in life and can tell the child about stumbling blocks in life. They see the truth to its truth. And it is those people who are able to advise all the other people about this particular situation. So in other words, what he's going to point out to us, we're going to stop here for now, but he's going to point out to us this idea that if we are looking for this growth in life that we need to look for, the world is a dark place. And what we need to do is to consult with somebody who perhaps has already gone on that path, who has seen the obstacles and can warn us of what really is right, who can warn us of what really is wrong. And ultimately, especially when we begin this process, we are going to have to take everything on faith that what this person is doing is directing us to the goal in the best possible way for our own good. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Eliyahu Sher from Chesed Ve'emet, my site, www.lovingkindness.co. You're welcome to be in touch with me. You're welcome to put a comment down in the comment section. If you've enjoyed the shiur, please give it the thumbs up. Say, I really appreciate the shiur. It gives me a lot of confidence, and I feel that I've given something to other people as well. Please share the shiur with friends and family. Subscribe to my channel. Click on the bell button. Be notified of future shiurim. And please come through to my site and see what we're doing. If you're able to, please become a partner in the activities that we're involved in so that we can continue, that we'll be able to teach more shiurim, be able to record them and offer them on YouTube for free as we do with these shiurim. And if there's anything at all that you want to discuss, just feel free to send me an email, and I'd be delighted to be in touch with you and grow together, which is what we need to do, give each other the support that we need. Thanks so much. I look forward to another shiur in the near future, and I wish you everything of the best. Shalom, shalom. Bye-bye.